Hi, my name is Rody, and on this channel we are talking about health, wealth, and relationships. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how to earn more money and how to attract better or high value women. I'm going to explain this video with a bit of history and then how it worked for me, and then later in the video I'm going to talk a few tips and tricks that you can apply in your own life. But first, let's dive into why some people are attracted to status, to high value people, and where this is coming from. So let's dive into history. So we have to agree on a point before we are going to proceed with this video. So if I want money, I have to exchange something for it. Can we agree on this point? If so, we can proceed. So I want money from you, you have to give me something, or the other way around. So we exchange, right? So money is an exchange mechanism, or gold or bronze, silver, metals, value. The first thing you must understand is that money or value was really created at the creation of script. So script was created in Egypt a long time ago, about like 3,000 years before Christ. So what did script do? So script lets you draw things, right? So let you write down certain words, and but this created the possibility for people to own something. So what the Egyptians did is that they wrote down something that would belong to you. So this also made the possibility to create a contract. So what happened was, this was the birth of slavery. So what happened was that people didn't, this was also the point where people started to exchange metals for primary sources of, for example, food or services that you could buy with these metals. But you couldn't carry all the metals around because it was super heavy, right? So they created script to actually, in the belongings, that they would write it down. But what happened was that not everybody had a certain amount of metals as to buy and exchange for primarily sources like food and water. So what people did was that they would voluntarily sell themselves to other people. So you had the people with resources, so metals, bronze, silver, and gold, and you had the people who didn't. But how did the people who didn't get the gold, silver, and bronze from the people who had the resources? What they did, they sold themselves to them. So this was the birth of slavery. So slavery is really that the slaves would provide service in exchange for the value, right? What we talked about, exchange. So then the value of the slave or the provider of service would determine his value, and this value would be subjective, but both parties have to agree on the value of the giving exchange, right? So how was a value determined from the slave to the buyer in this case? So the first thing you must understand is that when a buyer has two reasons to buy service from the slave. First is the rational or objective reason to actually buy, the need to have something. And the second of all is the feeling or the status that brings the buying with it, so he can share and show what he just bought. And this was also if you own something, it says something, right? So two things, and we're going to make the link to the modern world in a second. So buyers would buy service to gain something, to make their life more comfortable. And the more you could buy, the more comfortable their lives would be. Stay with me on this. So eventually, if a buyer would buy a lot of slaves, a lot of services, he would also show that to other people. He would show his status. He would point out to the slaves who he owned. And this often happens from a distance, so this is called the first impression. But what is the first impression when it comes to looking at people? Health. So your health is super important when it comes to perceiving value. So super important. This has always been the case. This has been in ancient history the case, and this is also in the modern day. People's health is the first determination of value. So when a buyer would choose a slave, and he has a choice of who to get the service from, right? And then the first question is, if I have a lot of resources, I want to have the highest value of the slave. So this could be a woman or a man, depending on what kind of service I want. Okay, so now the link comes to the modern world. Okay, I'm somebody with resources, and I want to have a service. For example, a haircut, right? I want my haircut, but the need is that I have a haircut. I can get a haircut for, let's say, 10 bucks if I travel around. So I can get a 10 buck haircut. But I can also get a 30 bucks haircut. But then at a higher value place or a higher value person who does my haircut. So what people nowadays do is that they link their own personality or their own status to somebody else. How do they do that? They do it through social media. So they show like, okay, this is the person I'm seeing right now. This is the person who works for me. So they find it important. This has nothing to do with the needs. This is just status. So you have two objectives here. You have the need that needs to be fulfilled, which is in this case a haircut, and the person who does it. So those are the two main driving sources or the motivations that people make decisions from. You can also do this in another industry. Let's say finance. I've worked in finance. There is a motivation in the financial world to actually choose for somebody. So let's say I want to buy, my buyer wants to buy real estate and he needs 300,000 euros. There are thousands of people who actually can get the money for this person. But there is the second need, which is the status thing. So somebody who works for you, you can point out like, this guy did it for me. Look at this guy looks good. And he also provided great service. So there are two aspects. One is the rational part, so the hard skill, and the other is the soft skill, which is more about your looks and the feelings that you provide to somebody. So there are always two motivations. You need to have these two in line. So first of all, you need to be a high, if I would talk to men, a high, competent man on your hard skills. You can provide, you can fulfill in needs so that you can sell. First of all, you need that. That is what attracts people at first. And then the second one is that you actually sell it in the right way. This is the subjective part. So the same people, there are two people who sell the same service, in this case, lending money. And but the other one looks better and he can show off like this person did it for me. So what do you need to do? And so we discussed the how people perceive value, right? And this also happens with women. So if a woman is in a club or a bar, the first impression is actually what she sees from a distance. And what does she see from a distance is your health. So those are two things. First of all is height, but you cannot influence that. And the second one is your health. How do you look? How much fat do you have? How much muscle do you have? That is the first impression people have of you, the perception of your value as a man, because I cannot talk for women. So you need to have this in line, and this also works with business. So I just explained this with business, how people perceive you, the slavery from actually buying a slave, a service from somebody, and we discussed how women perceive value from a distance. Okay, and then what are the indicators for health? And those are very obvious. Those are most people notice, like the internet is full of it. Like it's low body fat. So for men, it would be under 15%, to give you an indicator. So I would say men between 20 and 40 years old should have under 15% body fat. If you're really an athlete, you can sit under or around 10. But the standard in the modern world, with all this knowledge and all these gyms and all these supplements and all this knowledge about food, you should be at least under 15%. There are no excuses for it, especially in the modern world, because there are so many options if it comes for men compared to women, because women can literally choose from the internet. So you need to look good from a distance or on a picture. So that would be my advice for you. And then if you're okay, and so let me give you an extra one, because we're now on this video anyway. There is a standard for also how what you can do with your body. So literally the showing off to yourself or create value. It is that you can do at least 25 push-ups, that you can do at least 10 pull-ups, that you can do at least 4 minutes of planking. And I say at least because this is the minimum. And then combined with your low body fat, you will see that the general value of you will at least be the standard or good enough for society. So if you really are somebody who is ambitious and you want to be in the top of the chain, you want to be at that 10%, top 10%, because that's actually where the paying is higher, where the women are better, you know, all the good stuff happens, then your standards should be a lot higher. Then I'm talking about doing like 70 push-ups, 25 pull-ups, doing planking for over 6 minutes. You know, those are just higher standards. But first of all, if you're not there yet, start to at least hitting above average and be in that top 20% of society when it comes to men. I hope, guys, you liked this video about just a bit of history. So we touched a bit of Egyptian history. We talked about value, slavery. We talked about exchange, money, and business. A little bit of how women perceive men when it comes to health. And we gave you a bit of standard when it comes to your general health. So basic fitness tips. I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because there are going to be a lot more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.